I have a loud voice too. So.
Please welcome Jenn.
Thank you. Okay, can you hear me? Does everybody hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Bergman, and I'm excited to be here today to talk with all of you. I hope that through hearing my story and sharing in my experiences, you'll come away with a new perspective, or even just an understanding that you're not alone in your struggle. 6 years ago, I died, and it's not until just recently that I've begun to feel alive again. In December of 2009, there was a new strain of influenza that had everyone a little frightened, because it wasn't killing just the very young or the very old or the very sick. It was killing young, healthy people. It was called the H1N1 influenza. So my doctors strongly recommend that I take the combination H1N1 seasonal flu shot. Trusting my doctor, I agreed. Well, 2 weeks later, the first symptoms showed up. By the time anyone figured out that it was a neurological problem and admitted me to the hospital, I had been to emergency about 7 times with increasingly concerning symptoms like double vision, dizziness, falling down, inability to swallow. About a week after I was admitted, my lungs failed, and I needed to be placed on a ventilator in a drug-induced coma. While in that coma for 6 weeks, the disease, which they finally diagnosed as Bickerstaff brainstem encephalitis, almost killed me twice. What happened is this. Just before I took the vaccine, I had recently recovered from a terrible flu, the worst I'd had in years, probably the H1N1. Then I took the flu vaccine, which was essentially 2 shots. Well, the leftover antibodies I produced to fight the flu, combined with the antibodies from the flu shots, was too much. Since there was nothing left in the body to fight, all those antibodies turned their attack on the body. They attacked the brainstem and began chewing away the myelin sheaths that surround the nerves, causing all kinds of issues and malfunctions throughout the body. Bickerstaff brainstem encephalitis is a variant of Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is marked by the body shutting down one organ or system at a time. If it doesn't kill you, many people do have a full recovery, but like me, many people don't. When I came out of the coma is when the work began. The next 5 years would prove to be the most painful, depressing, challenging, but life-affirming and oddly satisfying years of my life. When I came to and I saw my mother, I had to concentrate really hard because I still had double vision. She was sitting reading a book and a light was shining on her head. Her hair was a deep, rich brown, like dark chocolate or mahogany. And the light was creating a glow around the top part of her head so that she kind of looked like a saint in a Renaissance painting. There was an image behind her that, with my double vision, looked like a mountainscape, and I suddenly remembered she would sing to me Blue Rocky Mountains while I was in the coma. I think in that moment she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Somehow I instinctively knew that I'd been in a coma, and I wanted to tell my mother that I was awake and okay, that she can stop worrying. That's when I realized I couldn't speak. So I tried to raise my hand to get her attention, but found that I couldn't, that I, in fact, couldn't move any part of my body. So I started to panic. I couldn't really see, I couldn't speak, and I couldn't move, which meant I couldn't communicate, and I couldn't get them to communicate with me. That was terrifying. And when I wanted to tell my mother that I was awake and okay, I wasn't okay at all. I was broken, really, really broken. And that was beyond terrifying. That was demoralizing. I don't know how long I spent in that state. The medication I was on was quite powerful, so I was in and out of consciousness. I heard many discussions about me between doctors and my mother or my husband, and often felt intense frustration because I was unable to join the discussion and explain what I was really experiencing. In time, thankfully, the paralysis abated, and I was finally able to communicate by writing, but I was still unable to move on my own. They eventually deflated the cuff on my tracheostomy, and I was finally able to speak. I spent 18 months in the hospital, much of it in the ICU and CCU. I can't count the number of tests and scans and procedures and blood work and surgeries I underwent. Can't quantify the amount of pain and depression and loneliness I experienced. I couldn't regulate my body temperature, and my skin was on fire, so not even my mother could touch me to comfort me. I spent the better part of 3 months lying naked in front of a fan with nothing but a diaper on. My feet were pointer flexed, which meant they kind of looked like ballerina toes. I was never going to walk again. My hand looked like a club. It was completely unusable. My tracheostomy stayed in for 11 months. At one point, they told me it was never going to come out, that I'd always have a tracheostomy because my vocal cords were paralyzed and it caused my throat to close down. So I couldn't breathe in. I could breathe out, but I couldn't breathe in. Eventually, the tracheostomy came out. I went through a dark period of about 3 months when I was so angry that I made the lives of the people around me truly miserable. I went through an even darker period when all I wanted was death. Just a measure of peace, of rest from the pain and freedom from the prison my body had become. I tried killing myself once with a broken suction wand, once by choking on a bag of ice water that I'd gotten my hands on, and twice by pulling out my own tracheostomy. It wasn't lack of courage that found me in that place. Believe me, it's an act of bravery to walk up to death's door and knock. No, it was hopelessness, helplessness, a profoundly obsessive need to escape, to flee. I just can't accurately depict how desperate and filled with physical, emotional, intellectual agony during that 1.5 years, but I can tell you that it was the beginning of the most profound sense of accomplishment and drive to help others that I've ever experienced. Connect Communities was the most important stop on my journey of rehabilitation. It's the place where I was able to spend plenty of time retraining my body to function normally, internally, and to become more independent externally. When I first arrived at my new home in Langley, we had traveled from Burnaby, and I had to pee so bad I was almost in tears. The caregiver that answered the door was so kind and so efficient. I was still using a bedpan at that time and required an overhead lift for transfer. I was off and on and off that pan in a jiffy. No muss, no fuss, no humiliation. It was the first impression of the care I was going to receive for the next 2 years, and I immediately felt at ease. Connect Communities is the place where I did the bulk of my rehab. It was the place where I recovered from my surgeries. It was the place where I became physically sound again. A physiotherapist would see me weekly, and the staff would work with me every single day to improve my walking, range of motion, strength, and stamina. There was plenty of equipment and exercises to explore. While I worked on my external body, we also encouraged my internal systems to return to normal. I had spent the majority of my time in the hospital on a feeding tube, so I needed to relearn to digest solid food and pass waste. I still had no control over my bladder and no strength to sit on a toilet yet. Sitting painfully in a shower chair long enough to get clean was a challenge. and I still suffered constantly from prolonged muscle spasticity. But I was far less depressed because I had a structure to follow, appointments to keep, goals to pursue, and people to chat with. And I had an unending and virtually unconditional support. I remember sitting outside in the backyard on a beautiful sunshiny day a few months before I left. My husband and I spent a great deal of time planting flowers, veggies, and herbs around the garden, and I was admiring the colors and vibrancy of the growing garden. I spotted a brilliant orange butterfly flitting between flowers, and I was suddenly struck by the sheer simplicity. This dance of life, this great universal breeze that we're all drifting on. We struggle so hard to get to where we think we're going. But if we just do like the butterflies sometimes and let breeze carry us from flower to flower instead of fighting it, we will eventually get to where we need to be. I've been fighting it for so long. I was so angry and I wanted someone or something to blame. I wanted the answer to the question, why? Why me? What did I do to deserve this? And who the hell is going to answer for this tragedy? Finally realized there is no answer. And no matter how hard I rage or how loudly I rail, I'll still never get the answer. And so it was time. I wasn't going to die, and I wasn't going to escape, and I sure as hell wasn't going to rely on somebody else, be completely dependent on them for the rest of my life for all my care. So that's when the mental and spiritual recovery also began. In 2013, I moved into Mira's family care home. It's my caregiver, Mira. She takes very, very good care of me. And this is where the next step in my rehabilitation began. This is where I finally developed independence and autonomy. I have my own little suite inside their home with a bedroom, bathroom, kitchen. There's a lovely patio outside my door and a little garden around the corner. My husband and I plant flowers and vegetables every year. I've adopted their dog, Paco, who provides me with plenty of joy and entertainment and companionship. With Mira's care, guidance, and patience, I developed the courage and strength to do things for myself, to go out into the world alone and vulnerable, to struggle through challenges until I conquer them. I learned to travel on transit and the ferries, to go shopping and run errands, to walk the dog and use a bank machine, to attend appointments and fix my lunch, to do crafts, keep an aquarium, mop the floor, fold my clothes, and any number of things, great and small. I still need help, particularly with hygiene and grooming, but my world has opened up in a way I could never hope for. If it weren't for the kindness and patience of so many of the caregivers and caseworkers and therapists that came into my life, I would not be the whole and happy person I am today. I look at my face, and it has many more lines than it used to, and my hair has a lot more white than it used to. I look at my body, and it's broken and twisted. It is no longer strong and flexible and graceful. And I'm in pain for every hour of every day. And yeah, I get depressed and discouraged. I have days when I wish I did die in that coma. But none of that really matters, because I'm pretty content. I may not have a fully functioning body, but I have my mind and my heart. I have my passion and my drive. I have made some great strides and continue to do so, and I'm proud of myself. And I believe we all have a purpose here in this life. And we have a responsibility to find that purpose. And if that means slogging through monotonous physio sessions and undergoing painful surgeries and tolerating time-consuming scans and procedures and lab tests in order to get yourself in the best physical and mental condition that you can, then do it. Do it, because it's worth it. It will bring you immense satisfaction and joy. It will bring your family relief and joy to see you become more whole and happy. It will make you rejoice and revel in a side of yourself you never knew existed. It will be painful and frustrating and depressing, but it will be oh so gratifying when you pop out the other side stronger and more confident than you've ever been. Then you can look death in the eye and say, "You've done your worst, and I survived. You won't break me." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for hearing my story. I'll leave you with the words of Joe Walsh. Lucky I'm sane after all I've been through. Life's been good to me so far.